word farm had become a courtesy title for the place. It had been a farm until some 25 years before, and it still looked like a farm, but in reality it had become a country house. Sussex and the neighbouring counties were well dotted with such houses and cottages, which tired Londoners had found adaptable to their needs. Internally, the house had been modernised and reconstructed to a point where it was doubtful whether its previous tenants would be able to recognise a single room. Outside, it had become spick. The yards and sheds had a suburban rather than a rural tidiness, and had for years known no form of animal life rougher than a few riding horses and ponies. The farmyard
Okay, also shown here, and I'm in honor of Christmas of Jesus Christ. I'm going to make a cartoons. I'm going to draw cartoons and show you how to trace it, color it, draw it, whatever you want to call it, for I guess all the way to New Year's. And this is Karen. Karen from Frosty the Snowman. Karen. And so I'm going to show you how to trace out Karen. Because next week is Christmas. I listened to the audiobook the day of the Triffers. You need to read that book. It's a good book. But let's get started. Let's start from right here. Okay.
I could feel that if we had intended to stay there, it would take a lot of work to feed 6 of us. The other 3 had been there already when Giselle
and if you had to rest, like I got to rest, I have to rest. Then don't worry about trying to make the line straight. There's no sense in making it straight. I have more ticks than to rest, though. Sometimes it can be to rest, but mostly I have ticks. Along with my arthritis, though. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, like the Lord had not been blessed.
All 5 of them had gone out into the garden to watch the display. In the morning, all 5 awoke to a world that was perpetually dark. First they had tried to telephone. When they found that impossible, they waited hopefully for the arrival of the daily help. She, too, failing them, Ted had volunteered to try and find out what had happened. Dennis would have accompanied him, but for his wife's almost hysterical
That's the scarf right here.
Ted, therefore, had set out
this is part of the coat sleeve. That's our minted.
But sometime later in the day, and without saying a word to anyone, Joan had slipped on. Touching the hands of the clock. By late afternoon, it was impossible to sit any longer doing nothing. He wanted to try to get down to the village. Both the women had objected to that. Because of Mary's state, he had yielded, and Joyce determined to try. She went to the door and began to feel her way with a stick outstretched before her. She was barely over the threshold when something fell with a swish across her left hand,
going around the south, hanging up everybody, railway, Walmart, boy. He should have been there when I was there. Let me continue on. Alright, let's draw her little, what you call that they have around their neck? I can't think of the name, but you see the picture, so.
And did his best to suck out the poison. After that, they had had to carry her up to bed, where she stayed for several days, while the effect of the poison wore off.
And her little
Meanwhile,
buttons.
Dennis had made tests.
Like I said, you ain't gotta make it straight because there's no sense when you have to rest to try to make something straight.
Each time there was the whistle of a sting, and he felt the broom handle tremble slightly in his grip. At one of the garden windows, the same thing happened. The others seemed to be clear. He would have tried to leave by one of them, but for Mary's distress. She was sure that if there were Triffids close round the house, there must be others about, and would not let him take the risk. Luckily, they had food enough to last them some time, though it was difficult to prepare it. Also, Joyce, in spite of a high temperature, appeared to be holding her own against the Triffid poison, so that the situation was less urgent than it might have been. Most of the next day, Dennis devoted to contriving a kind of helmet for himself. He had wire net only of large mesh, so that he had to construct it of several layers overlapped and tied together. It took him some time, but equipped with this and a pair of heavy gauntlet gloves, he was able to start out for the village in a sting thudded across his helmet. He could not find that triffid to grapple with it, though it made half a dozen slashes before it gave up. He found his way to the tool shed and thence across to the lane, encumbered now with 3 large balls of gardening twine, which he paid out as he went to guide him back. Several times in the lane, more stings whipped at him. It took an immensely long time for him to cover the mile or so to the village, and before he reached it, his supply of twine had given out. And all the time he had walked and stumbled through a silence so complete that it frightened him. Now and then he would stop and call, but no one answered. More than once he was afraid that he had lost his way, but when his feet discovered a better laid road surface, he knew where he was, and was able to confirm it by locating a signpost. He groped his way further on. After a seemingly vast distance, he had become aware that his footsteps were sounding differently. They had a faint echo. Moving to one side, he found a footpath, and then a wall. A little further along, he discovered a postbox fitted with brickwork, and he knew that he must
earmuff on
be
her other
venturing
side
into
right
the
there.
past. He called out once more. A woman's voice, called back, but it was some distance ahead and the words were indistinguishable. He called again and began to move towards it. Its reply was suddenly cut off by a scream. After that,
Her
there was silence again.
headband to her little
Only then,
earmuff.
and still half incredulously, did he realize that the village was in no better plight than his own household. He sat down on the grass verge of the path to think out what he should do. By the feeling in the air, he thought that night must have come. He must have been away fully 4 hours, and there was nothing to do but go back. All the same, there was no reason why he should go back empty-handed. With his stick, he rapped his way along the wall until it rang on one of the tin-plate advertisements which adorned the village shop.
And that's how you trace out
3 times in
Karen.
the last 50 or 60 yards, stings had snapped on his helmet.
Little innocent
Another
Karen.
struck as he opened the gate,
Um,
and he tripped over a body
I'm gonna make a
lying on the
twist
path.
to this Karen.
A man's body.
I'm going to make Karen black.
He had the impression that there had been
Originally,
others in the
Karen's
shop
a white
before him.
girl, but since
Nevertheless,
it's
he
my
found a sizable piece of bacon.
cartoon of Karen, I'm
He
going to
dropped
make
it along
Karen
with
black.
packets of butter or margarine, biscuits and sugar
So,
into a sack, and added an assortment of tins which came from a shelf that, to the best of his recollection, was devoted
but
to
if you want to still make Karen white, you can, but I'm making her black.
Then he sought for and found a dozen or more balls of string.
So I'm gonna get this white and go over her
He had
face
missed
with
his
this
way
white.
once, and it had been hard to keep down panic while he retraced his steps and reorientated himself. But at last he knew that he was again in a familiar lane.
And be careful they don't smudge the picture because the premium color smudges because it's very pigmented. So you want to be careful with that.
Twice more in the week that followed, he had made the journey to the village shop
Okay,
again,
so I added that.
and each time the triffids round the house and on the way.
Now I
had
want to
seemed more
add the
numerous.
yellow. It's the
There
premium
had been
color
nothing for the
yellow.
isolated trio to do
These are
but wait
colors that
now.
I use common,
And then,
often,
like a miracle,
mostly all the time.
Josella had arrived. It was clear at once then that the notion of an immediate move to Tyneshaw was out. For one thing, Joyce Taylor was still in an extremely weak state. When I looked at her, I was surprised that she was alive at all.
It's the premium
Dennis's
color
promptness
yellow.
had saved her life. But the
Okay, so I got
inability to
that
proper
down.
restoratives or even suitable food during
Now,
the following week had slowed down her
I'm
recovery.
going to take my toasted
It would be folly
toffee.
to try to move her
That's the
long
crazy
distance
art
for a week
toasted
altogether.
toffee, and use it to color her in.
Mary's confinement was
Yeah.
close enough to make the journey inadvisable for her, so that the only course seemed to be for us all to remain where we were until these crises should have passed. Once more it became my task to scrounge and forage. This time I had to work on a more elaborate scale to include not merely food but petrol for the lighting system, hens that were laying, 2 cows that had recently calved and still survived though their ribs were sticking out, medical necessities for Mary, and a surprising list of sundries. The area was more beset with triffids than any other I had yet seen. Almost every morning revealed 1 or 2 new ones lurking close to the house.
Okay, so I got
And the
that
first
down.
task of the day was to
Now I'm
shave the
gonna
tops
get
off
my
them
crazy art
until I had constructed a netting fence
brown
leading
and
past
go
the
over
garden.
it with the crazy art brown.
Even then, they would come right up and loiter suggestively against it until something was done about them. cases of gear and taught young Susan how to use a Triffid gun. She quite rapidly became an expert at disarming the things as she continued to call them. It became her department to work daily vengeance on them. From Josella, I learned what had happened to her after the fire alarm at the university building. She had been shipped off with her party much as I with mine, but her manner of dealing with the two women to whom she was attached had been summary. She had issued a flat ultimatum: either she became free of all restraints, in which case she would help them as far as she was able, or if they continued to coerce her,
I made Karen black.
time when they would find themselves drinking
Now I'm going to fill in her hair, and I'm going to use black to fill in her hair. But before I do that, I'm going to get the crazy art white and try to smooth out her skin.
When her group had in the end dissolved, she had reasoned much as I did.
Move it out to be pretty. Her black is beautiful and smooth.
She had not encountered any survivors from my group.
Black is beautiful and smooth.
She had kept on there until almost sunset, and then decided to make for the university building. Not knowing what to expect, she had cautiously stopped the car a couple of streets away and approached on foot.
So we get it all smoothed out and pretty. Now we're going to... I'm thinking about filling her hair with dark brown.
From there, she had observed Coca also making a circumspect
I'm thinking about it.
Without knowing that I had fired at the Triffid in the square, and that the sound of the shot was the cause of Coca's caution. She suspected some kind of trap. Determined not to fall into one a second time, she had returned
So this
to
is
the car.
the premium color crazy art. Let me see.
If they had gone at all.
This is the premium
The only
color
place of refuge
dark
she could
brown.
think of that would be known to anyone
Let
at
me
all
see.
was the one she had mentioned almost
Yeah, I kind of
casually
like
to me.
that. I like the way
She had
that
decided
look.
to make for it in the hope that I, if I was still in existence, would remember.
It's like almost like a comic book, like.
I curled up and slept in the back of the car once I was clear of London, she said. It was still quite early when I got here the next morning. The sound of the car brought Dennis to an upstairs window, warning me to look out for Triffids. Then I saw that there were half a dozen or more of them close around the house, for all the world as if they were waiting for someone to come out of it. Dennis and I shouted back and forth. The Triffids stirred, and one of them began to move towards me, so I nipped back into the car for safety. When it kept on coming, I started up the car and deliberately ran it down. But there were still the others, and I had no kind of weapon but my knife. It was Dennis who solved that difficulty. If you have a can of petrol to spare, throw some of it their way and follow it up with a bit of burning rag, he suggested. That ought to shift them. It did. Since then I've been using a garden syringe. The wonder is that I've not set the place on fire. With the aid of a cookbook, Gisela had managed to produce meals of a kind, and had set about putting the place more or less to rights. Working, learning, and improvising had kept her too busy to worry about a future which lay beyond the next few weeks. She had seen no one else at all during those days, but certain that there must be others somewhere. She had scanned the whole valley for signs of smoke by day, or lights by night. She had seen no smoke, and in all the miles within her view, there had not been a gleam of light until the evening I came. In a way,
Okay, so now I'm going to get my crazy art white to smooth out the hair color.
Mary held herself withdrawn and seemed capable of finding endless mental occupation and compensation in the contemplation of prospective moment. But Dennis was like an animal in a trap. He did not curse in the futile way I had heard so many others do. He resented it with a vicious bitterness, as if it had forced him into a cage where he did not intend to stay. Already before I arrived, he had prevailed upon Gisela to find the Braille system in the encyclopedia and make an indented copy of the alphabet for him to learn. He spent dogged hours each day making notes in it and attempting to read them back. Most of the rest of the time he fretted over his own uselessness, though he scarcely mentioned it. He would keep on trying to do this or that with a grim persistence that was painful to watch, and it required all my self-control to stop him offering him help. One experience of the bitterness which unasked help could arouse in him was quite enough. I began to be astonished at the things he was painfully teaching himself to do. Though still the most impressive to me was his construction of an efficient mesh helmet. it on only the second day of his blindness. It took him out of himself to accompany
Okay, so I got that
foraging
down. So what we're gonna do is a little
it pleased him that he could be useful in
ear
helping to
muff.
move the heavier cases.
You see? Oh,
He was
oh.
anxious for books in
I
braille.
pointed her face, her ear
But
muff.
these we decided
Let's
would
put
have
her
to wait
ear
until
muff
those
on.
measures of contamination and
We're gonna leave this white, cause this
The days
part
began to
red.
pass quickly, certainly for the three of us in the sea. Josella was kept busy, mostly in the house, and Susan was learning to help her. There were plenty of jobs too, waiting to be done by me.
And we're gonna use the
Joyce
Premier
recovered sufficiently
color
to make a shaky first appearance,
Poppy
and then began to pick up more rapidly.
Red. Okay.
Soon after that, Mary's pains began. That was a bad night for everyone. Worse, perhaps, for Dennis, in knowing that everything depended on the care of two willing but inexperienced girls. His self-control aroused my helpless admiration. In the early hours of the morning, Josella came down to us looking very tired. It's a girl. They're both all right, she said, and led Dennis up. She
So
returned a few
now,
moments later and took the
before
great
I can go over again with the crazy white, but I'm gonna go. Let's go and do her coat.
Poor Mary was horribly
Okay,
affected by the
let's
blind
do her
tooth
coat.
loss.
Her coat is also red.
Now she's crying quite dreadfully because she can't see it. We drank. It's queer, I said, the way things go on.
And we're gonna come back and do her legs
It
too.
looks all shriveled and finished.
Which I don't know why her legs is showing. It's supposed to be cold outside. Well, they're just showing that she's a girl. I guess that's what it is.
Bill, does it have to go on being like this? On and on and on. And she too collapsed in tears. 3 weeks later, I went over to Tyneside to see Coca and make arrangements for our move. I took an ordinary car in order to do the double journey in a day. When I got back, Josella met me in the hall. She gave one look at my face. What's the matter? She said. Just that we shan't be going there after all, I told her. Lunch was finished. She stared back at me. What happened? I'm not sure. It looks as if the plague got there. I described the state of affairs.
Okay, so now get the crazy art white.
The gates were open when I arrived.
And just go over there, smooth it out.
The smell when I got out of the car confirmed it. I made myself go into the house. By the look of it, it had been deserted 2 weeks or more before. I put my head into two of the rooms. They were enough for me. I called, and my voice ran right away through the hollowness of the house. I went no further. There had been a notice of some kind pinned to the front door, but only one blank corner remained. I spent a long time searching for the rest of the sheet.
Shut my hands.
I did not find it. The yard at the back was empty of lorries and cars, and most of the stores had gone with them, but where to, I could not tell. There was nothing to be done but get into my car again and come back. And so, what? Asked Josella when I had finished. And so, my dear, we stay here.
Oh, my hands hurt.
We learn how to support ourselves.
So now we need to do her little
And we go on
legs.
supporting
Let's do
ourselves.
her legs.
Unless help
Same
comes.
thing with the white.
There may be an organization
Put the
somewhere.
white down. Try not to smudge the picture.
I think we'd better forget all about help.
The
Millions and millions of people
Premier
have been waiting
color
for
white.
help hasn't come. There'll be something.
The Premier color
There must be
yellow.
thousands of little groups like this dotted all over Europe, all over the world. Some of them will get together. They'll begin to rebuild. In how long? Said Josella.
The Premier color toasted. No, this the crazy art toasted toffee. Get the crazy art toasted toffee.
And we are left. We must make our own lives. We'll have to plan them as though help will never come. She paused. There was an odd,
And get the crazy
look on her
art
face that I had never seen.
brown.
It puckered. Darling, I said. Oh, Bill. Bill, I wasn't meant for
And now I'm going to get the crazy art white to smooth it out.
A few moments later, she recovered herself. Sorry, no. Self-pity. Revolting. Never again.
And now that's how we get to her legs. Now what we are going to do is her boot. Her little blue boot. It's really light blue. It's kind of like a navy blue look like. See, do I have a navy blue?
What is it? I was only thinking how
Now I
much
got
used
a
to
crazy
dread my
art
wedding.
blizzard blue,
That was very maidenly and proper.
but I don't want to
A
use
little
that.
unexpected, I told her. Well, it
This
wasn't
is
exactly
the,
that. It was my publishers.
I can't really see it, but it's blue. I think it says light
They were
blue.
there for it.
So let's
There'd
put
been
the
a new
light
edition of
blue
my
for her
silly book,
boot.
probably a new release of the film. Pictures in all the papers. I didn't think you'd have liked that much. I can think of another thing I did not like much, I told her. Do you remember that night in the moonlight you made a condition? She looked at me. Well, maybe some things haven't fallen out so bad, she said.
This is the premier color,
Chapter 15.
light blue.
World narrowing. From then on, I kept a journal. It is a mixture of diary, stock list, and commonplace book. In it, there are notes of the places to which my expeditions took me.
And I'm going to get my crazy art white to make it stand out, make the color pop.
Observations on the states of the premises, with memos on which should be cleared first to avoid deterioration. Foodstuffs, fuel, and seed were constant objects of search, but by no means the only ones. There are entries detailing loads of clothing, tools, household linen, harness, kitchenware, loads of stakes, and wire, and more wire. Also books.
And this is
I
my
can see there that within a week of my return,
African American cartoon Karen from Frosty the Snowman. Whoever watched this video, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you love it. I hope you like it. I hope you subscribe. I hope you share. Look like I'm missing the pencil, but that's all right.
Which took me a number of months to complete. At the same time, I was endeavoring to learn the ABC of farming. It is not the kind of thing that is easily learned from books. For one thing, it had never occurred to any writer on the subject.
Okay, I'm not missing anything.
Starting from absolute zero.
But I hope you enjoy the. Oh, you know what? I almost forget about something. That was nobody but Jesus that reminded me.
Much of the theory called for materials and substances which were either unavailable
Her
to me
tongue.
or unrecognizable by me if I could find them.
Her tongue.
I began to see quite soon that by the time I had dismissed the things that would shortly be unprocurable, such as chemical fertilizers, imported feeding stuffs, and all the simpler kinds of machinery, there was going to be much expenditure of sweat for problematical returns.
And you can use any red, any black to fill in the inside of her mouth. And now we are complete because you can see her teeth and everything. Now we are complete. And I hope you enjoy. Like I said, whoever watched this, hope you enjoy it. Thank you.